Hello, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Jeff Mendelson, and this is the One Big Tip podcast. My guest today is Michael Buzinski. He has been dubbed a visionary marketer by the American Marketing Association. With over 30 years of experience in the digital marketing field, Michael Buzinski tapped into his entrepreneurial spirit and founded Buzzworthy.biz, where he offers a variety of packages to his clients. Michael has worked with the likes of Bass Pro Shop and the American Diabetes Association. He is also the author of Rule of 26. Michael's mission is to reduce the confusion and intricacies of building websites and creating marketing campaigns. He's He's dedicated to serving service-based companies using the Rule of 26. Michael has helped a multitude of businesses increase their KPIs to get a compound effect of 100% more revenue out of their website. This is going to be a great conversation today because we're going to find out how that is done. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today and welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So I need to talk to you a little bit about how this all came about. You know, we're talking a little bit in the pre-show. You have a very cool military background. You also have this. You've also been working in the internet marketing fractional CMO space for a while. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what makes you so amazing.
I don't know what makes me so amazing, but I can tell you who I am. I was in the military. Joined the military at age of 22. I was a lost corporate sales and marketing soul. Had kind of climbed up 3 different corporate ladders and national brands, and only to find out that I couldn't get to the next level until I got a 4-year degree, which I didn't have any money in the bank to do. And this was before, student loans were so prevalent, thank God. And so I needed to get out of where I was at. And so my parents were in the Air Force. My grandfather was Air Corps in World War II. And it was a way to go and find myself, I guess, and serve my country at the same time. And so I did that for 10 years. And when I got out, I was unemployable. It's kind of funny because a lot of people go into the service to find, what they can, find a trait, or not a trait, but a trade. And then they get out and they make a lot of money doing it. And I wasn't. And so, but during those years, I was also doing music in the background and trying to become a rock star. But I ended up not being tall enough, dark enough, or talented enough to be a big rock star. So I actually originally started a company called Buzz Biz Media, and it was a recording studio for local musicians. And I was up in Alaska. And about a year in, I realized that working for starving musicians was a bad business plan. And so I pivoted immediately and used my production skills to create media production pieces for marketing small businesses. And that eventually worked into a multi-million-dollar creative agency. And just a few years ago, I found myself extremely miserable, underpaid in my own company, and owning an extravagant job. I really didn't have that financial freedom or the entrepreneurial freedom that I should have had by that time in my entrepreneurial career. So I closed it all down and started all over. I reinvented it, and now I call it Buzzworthy Integrated Marketing. And we strictly work with service-based businesses on their internet marketing.
I love that background story. Thank you so much for your service. I mean, that is really, we're having a conversation right now with my nephew, who coincidentally is, getting out of high school, and he's thinking about going into the military. And we're thinking like, okay, how is this going to serve you going forward?
Mm-hmm.
And when he couldn't answer that question coherently, forget about whether, we were for or against him enlisting, right?
Uh-huh.
Is, just trying to get the idea across in his head that how is this going to serve you? Right. Because right away, like his plan is, well, I'm going to join the Navy SEALs. Right. And it's like, listen, buddy, it doesn't work like that. Right.
Yeah.
And, so there was a lot of, like re-education to do. And I think what you talked about was you went into the service thinking that you were going to get all of these skills. And for some reason or another, you didn't quite get them. Right. And then when you get out, you're like, okay, now what? And that now what is that impacts your checkbook,
significantly.
Negatively, right?
Yeah. It was, and it's weird because so when you go in as a Navy SEAL, you are unemployable when you get out. Like, you're not, I mean, you can go into law enforcement or something like that, but I mean, if you want to continue to do the same thing, I was a flyer on um, AWACS. And so the computer system I was on is antiquated. Being a flyer, a mission crew is not something that translates to the real world. And, the best thing you can ask for is to become a trainer for Boeing. And it's like, ugh, who wants to do that? So that's when I looked at what do I have to offer. And I always had this kind of entrepreneurial like vein in me. I mean, being a musician really drives that entrepreneurial side of things. I mean, you're marketing yourself all the time. You're creating. You are the person who, if you want to buy a new guitar, go get a gig and play a couple gigs, and you can buy a new guitar. That type of thing. So you get the fundamentals of business and the marketing side. So it almost was, I don't know, it was kind of a dream of mine, like to be in that world, and so I just went for it.
Amazing. What a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to pivot a little bit into the type of work that you're doing today at Buzzworthy,
Okay.
right? So a lot of what makes the service brands work is that they need to be visible on the internet. And you and I can swap anecdotes from here until next week. On like why we didn't go to this sushi restaurant last night, or why
Right.
this dog grooming business didn't show up. There are a million and one excuses and a million and one different ways, to talk about it.
Right.
But what I really want to do here is zoom out and talk strategy. One of the interesting things we had, like during the pre-call, we were talking about, like the tactics that a lot of people use. We're just getting inundated with tactics, with automated content creation tools, with social media agencies that just create the content for you and that's it.
Hmm.
But if you're lacking the strategy to really understand your core avatar, know how it is that you need to sell to them, and then give them the type of messaging that they need, you're not going to get very far,
No.
right?
And if you do get anywhere, it's going to be a one hit wonder.
Let's talk about that. How have you set up your business, and how do you talk to your clients in order to get them to understand that the strategy is actually the hard part? The strategy is the part that you really need to get down, because the tactics, frankly, are a dime a dozen. You can hire just about anybody to do anything these days.
Right.
How does that look in
So
your world?
so in my world, it's an evolving world, obviously. And so last year, actually, I mean, this is new. I mean, up to last year, we were tactical marketers. And so we had a cadre of services that we could offer anybody who came into the office, right? And so somebody says, "Hey, I need SEO," or "Hey, I want to be seen on the search engine." Okay, you need SEO. Okay, here we go. And we go down the road, and then only to find out that the rest of their marketing isn't even set up, or their website doesn't convert, or they have no way to actually onboard clients. So every time they start one client, they're losing another client, after a month of being around. And so what I do now is that we start with strategy. And if somebody can't prove to me that they have a strategy and they're unwilling to go through the strategy process, we just can't work together, because I find that my retention rate is much lower because they don't have a strategy in place. Because once you understand your strategy, you can then understand how tactics come and go in your marketing. See, people want to buy the one magic pill. Just take it and everything's good. And that's not how marketing works. It's a constant testing, failing, small wins, big wins sometimes, but those big wins are created by a lot of little failures and successes, and the trial and tribulations and all that other stuff that comes up with that. And when people say, "Well, what about them? They weren't big last year. Now look at them; they're multimillionaires." I'm like, "Yeah, 10 years, blood, sweat, and tears to get them to become an overnight success." So in my world, if we can't talk strategy, or if we can't agree that strategy is where we're going to start, we just don't get started.
How does the rule of 26 work? And how do you help people figure that part out? I'm really interested to hear about this. About this framework that you have created, and really what you're talking about. It really flows into that small wins equals much bigger wins down the line.
Right.
How does that look?
So I created the Rule of 26 to be able to really boil down strategy into a short, concise statement, right? So the Rule of 26 states that if we increase unique traffic by 26%, website conversion rate by 26%, and the average revenue per client by 26%, we will get a compounded increase in revenue of 100% more sales coming from our website. It's that simple. And so when we tell, and it's like, that is a strategy, right? So if you went to HubSpot, they will show you 56 KPIs, key performance indicators that you can chase around all day long. And you can create strategies to chase all 56 if you wanted to. I think Shopify is some around 37. I'm like, there's nobody's paying attention to that many KPIs at the same time. And yes, some of those KPIs are indicator KPIs, and we use them in the background. But for the business owner, they only worry about one thing, and that's the revenue needle. If I can move the revenue needle, then we're in good shape with our clients, right? As marketers, that's what we do. If you're not doing that, it's called fuzzy math or fuzzy numbers, or I like to look at marketing math, vanity KPIs, if you will. And so the Rule 26 allows me to say, hey, here's a strategy. Is that simple enough for you to go with? Yeah. Okay, great. Now we can go into the strategy behind each of those objectives, depending on where they're at, because we can identify, do you have enough traffic? Do you have a high enough conversion rate? Are you getting the full value of each of your clients that you should be? And we find out where the weakest link is, and we start there, because increasing that by 26%, just 26, increases revenue by 26% coming from your website.
Okay, so what you're saying here is don't look at all the numbers, right? Don't look at all the percentages and all that can that can affect your business. Focus on a few, right?
Yeah.
And now, does that
Specifically the ones that actually move revenue,
okay, great.
right?
So when we're talking about that, whether you have an e-commerce store, those 3 to 5, let's call them key performance indicators, right?
KPIs, yeah.
Maybe a little bit different than whether you're talking about your blog or your podcast or your service-based business, right?
No,
How
not necessarily. I mean, unless your blog, I mean, if your blog is not made to make money, then yes, you have different KPIs. But if you're supposed to be making money off of your blog, then those three are still there. You need more traffic. People need to convert from your blog to become buyers, and those buyers need to the revenue you're getting from there need to be optimized.
Okay. All right. So great. So let's talk about the conversion process for a minute,
Okay.
right? Because what you have with conversions is that there are different ways to bring it in. To bring in these conversions, whether you're talking about low
Hmm.
ticket items, high ticket items, whether
Hmm.
you're signing them up for recurring revenue versus a one time hit.
Hmm.
Talk to me a little bit about how you have your clients visualize that journey of bringing somebody from the time that they come into their world
Hmm.
all the way to a conversion, and where the money actually hits the bank.
Right. So that goes back to strategy, right? So if we have decided or we've discovered the customer value journey, by the time they get to their website, we understand what mindset they're in. And for service based businesses, we have to understand that there's only two things a service centric business offers: we either solve problems or we attain dreams. That's all we can do. There's nothing else you can offer anybody except those two things. Okay. So if you're not doing one of those two things, you're not a service based business, or you are completely missed the mark on why you exist. Okay. So with that said, most of the strategy is about taking all of the I, we, and us's out of our standard and historically blah websites out there that don't convert, and create the you and your rhetoric or content, if you will, and that flow. So we want to identify the fact that we understand that their problem. Then we have to describe how we can solve that problem. And then we have to convince them that we are the people or the company that can do it the best. And if you run through that type of strategy with your content on every single page of your website, you will find that you will blow away 26% increase in your conversion rates just with that one strategy.
Just by changing, that everything that I can do for you, or that my company can do for you, or that
And
we
how
can do
we
for
are awesome
you, right?
when you
And
work with
changing it
us.
into you are the hero. You will achieve, X
If you're
number of products.
detaining dreams, yeah, you want to be here. Or in my website, like we're rewriting ours right now again, but it is, stop suffering from entrepreneurial poverty. We're talking to their pain points, right? Stop struggling with website traffic. Stop not getting money from your website. Those types of statements. I don't exactly remember right there off the top of my head, but I should, I guess. But those type of statements right off the bat, really boom, 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 right? Are you tired of blah? Are you sick of blah? Are you struggling with blah? Right? Do you suffer from blah? Right? Those are problems. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's me. Okay. Now we've identified this is a qualified person, because anybody who doesn't say yes to that should probably leave your website at that point. And that's one of the things that most small business owners don't realize, is that not all traffic is good traffic. And that's something we talk about in the rule of 26, is that we want to identify the right traffic and then only talk to that traffic when they get there, right? And only go after getting that traffic. So don't try to be everywhere. Don't be omnipresent. Be present where your perfect client is and draw them to you, and then talk to them, talk to their pain points, talk to their dreams, and how you can help them achieve what they want, because people are selfish. They don't care about what you know until they know how much you care.
I love it. I love the way you articulated that. I think it's so poignant and actually very needed in this space, because there are so many people that really do go down that line of I do this, we can do that, and
Classic.
it's really kind of harmful, right? And that it's like, okay, buddy, yeah, you don't get it. Let's try to pivot here.
I did it. I mean, we all were taught that. Like I built my first website in 1999. Okay. And it was like, right? Well, there's a bunch of I's now, right? All the websites in the world, there are all these I's, and people have choice, and they want to choose somebody they like and trust. You only build trust through understanding and through empathy. If you can't show that through your website, you're missing the mark, man.
I love it. Can you please walk us through very quickly a client? You don't need to name them, just
Okay.
name the circumstances of where they started, and then how they were able to grow by implementing this framework.
So I'll go with one of my recent startups. A fractional CFO. He had worked with tens of millions of dollar companies before he decided to go out on his own, and he wanted to replicate his framework on how he helped people use finance to grow their businesses in the construction industry. And so he wanted to have all of these things on it. So he came to us about 6 months into his business, and he'd been working with an agency who built them this website that literally had all of these other services other than his fractional CFO. And I asked him about it. I said, well, so what's that about? Why do you have all these things? Well, I have a network of people who can help me with these things. I says, okay, that's great. But why are people coming to you? Well, they want to get their finances right. I says, well, so then what does HR have to do with that? Well, I mean, that's part of the process down the road. Yeah, but right now, what does that mean? And so we were really able to like dive into what he does. He does one thing, and he does it really well. He's a fractional CFO for construction companies that do over $10 million or have 100 employees or more. That is the CEO he's wanting to talk to. So we got really clear on what pain points does that CEO have, that they're sitting at 10 million in sales and they want to get to 20 million. What does that look like? What are the questions in their head? What keeps them up at night? All of those things. And literally, the website starts with those statements, not even a paragraph of anything about Dagsit, right? It's just a big build better, build bigger, better. That's it, right? Done. And these are the pain points. And then from there, it's like, okay, here's a diagnosis. If you have these pain points, here's a diagnosis. So we have this flow, right? But then once you have that and you get them on the phone, or you're doing a presentation, you have to have a framework in which to sell that against. And so we were able to build what we call a financial resource optimization. And it's his way of showing people how to double their cash flow to open up themselves to be able to pay their people better and build their business. He was able to take that and the website and the other stuff that we had created and go into a training that only had 12 businesses in it. He got interviews with 2 and sold both. His entry level is $50,000 per for the first 30 days, plus a 12-month contract of $5,000 a month for each of those. Since we started now 8 months ago, he's already acquired $365,000 worth of contracts just from strategy. We haven't really done a lot of tactics, all strategy.
I'm blown away. I'm blown away. You know, that is such a great that's such a great story to be able to show people, you know, just by helping them hone in on. Absolutely amazing. Thank you
Thank
so much for sharing that. Mike, can you please let everyone know how they can learn more about your business and how they can reach out to you directly if they want to get in touch?
Sure. So our agency is Buzzworthy Integrated Marketing, and that is at buzzworthy.biz, which is on the screen right now if you're watching. And if you're interested in the book, you can go to ruleof26.com, and that the link to Amazon is there as well. Those are the 2 best ways to get a hold of me.
Amazing. Michael, thank you so much for joining me today. I love nerding out on this stuff, and this has been an amazing conversation. I love how you brought the energy, and I really appreciate you being here today.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.